A spring tune-up is a 2-hour-long appointment that thoroughly inspects both your indoor and outdoor systems. But, what exactly does that mean? To start, we will conduct a visual inspection of the unit.
The dirtier this system is, the harder it works. The harder it works, typically the more energy it uses, and of course everyone knows what that means. So we try to clean these things out. Most of the time, we will just use water. We do have chemical cleaner if needed. We're gonna open up this panel here where all of your electrical components are at, and we're gonna test everything from the compressor, the fan motor, the refrigerant system, everything under operation, and each individual component to make sure that it falls within the parameters that it should. We will then go into the house, turn the unit on, and start taking temperatures before we do anything else. Inside, we'll take a look at the ductwork as well to see if there's any kind of leaks, anything obvious. And then of course, the reason that we ask the customer for, certain rooms that aren't getting hot or cold properly, things like that, so if there's an issue, we can address it at that time.
We will then complete a thorough test of the outdoor electrical components.
Now what those are doing is they're reading the actual temperature coming back, and that lets me know how well that refrigerant is carrying the heat from your home outside. So here's a prime example of a capacitor that is weak and outside of range. It's supposed to be rated for this, and it allows me to give 5%. We're looking for 45 plus or minus 5%, but we only get 37. The unit will still work, it'll still operate, but without a proper capacitor, your motor or your compressor could feel the effects of this. The reason we check the filter is obviously for airflow. The filter is not to protect your breathing. That's what an air cleaner does, or a UV light, or something else. This is to protect your machine. The number one killer of blower motors and components inside this box here is going to be dirt buildup or neglect in terms of maintenance or anything like that. So you let this go too long, it'll clog up and cause your motor to work too hard, and then you'd end up with a service call or a failure. You don't have to, but I typically like to go ahead and try to brush a little bit of this stuff that builds up where the foam seals are at. I'm going to inspect the drain system. So all air conditioning systems and some furnaces that have the PVC piping will create water. And they will require some sort of condensation system, some sort of drainage system. Now, it can be this going into a pump, which then goes to a basement sink. That's the whole thing. Or what we have here is just a simple, once again, because it's horizontally in the basement and they have a plumbing system here, they just dropped it right into the plumbing, which is fine. We just want to make sure that nothing is clogged and that everything is draining properly. If it gets clogged, you'll end up with water on the floor of the basement. It'll just leak out from right here because it'll back all the way up. Or in the event of this particular one, because it's just stuck in this pipe here, if it clogs in this pipe, it'll overflow here. If it clogs right here, it'll overflow here. So another reason why we want to inspect these, and in this case, we're gonna run this outside and run some water through it to verify and make sure everything is flushed out from our trap here. A lot of times these control boards, they either work or they don't. You can come up to one that looks terrible and it still works. And then you can go up to one that looks like this where it looks fine and it breaks. So a lot of times with these systems, if we see burn marks or discoloration on the board, a lot of times you'll see hot spots and things like that. This one is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this system. It's working like it should. It's ramping the motor up and down like it should. And there's no visible damage anywhere. Here what I'm doing is the exact same thing I did outside, testing the motor electrically to see how much power it's pulling at any given time. Normally, if you find a blower wheel that's clogged, the scoops they look about like this, they're curved like this. And each scoop on the wheel as it's turning is, throwing air as it's going. These scoops will get filled up to where it's flat. Then it's not scooping the air, it's not moving the same amount of air, and that's why we care. Our entire system is based on balance. I need a certain amount of airflow, with a certain amount of refrigerant flow, with a certain amount of space. All three of these things have to come together, which is why if you have clogged filter, that can give me frozen coil. Clogged outside, that can give me frozen coil. There's many things that can do the same thing, because anytime you have a restriction, you're gonna get that type of result. So that's why we are very particular about the airflow, the motor operation, all the electrical devices, because when they work harder, that's when they burn out. And that's why cleanliness is the most important thing with these systems. So I would offer to the customer in this case, options to do all the replacements of these items, maybe do a leak search, figure out if there's something we need to do there. Also give them the option to charge up the refrigerant if that's available, per the rules and laws, and then putting in the UV light. This is not a system that I would recommend replacing at this time. If we had more things wrong or if things were worse off, then maybe we would come to that conclusion. But at this point, this is just normal wear and tear and components that are just naturally need to be replaced. Capacitors, contactors, things like that do typically get replaced, every few years.
Our team will keep your air conditioning system running at its peak performance, helping you save on overall costs. Our knowledgeable and courteous technicians will make sure the job is done right, providing services you can trust and backed by our 100% written guarantee.